In this video, we will be reviewing the Golden Age Expert Advisor by Mr. Marek Stanislav Zigala. Stick around to the end to see if this is a real trading bot or just another MQL5 scam. This video is sponsored by Prosperity Algo and our free Golden Time Bomb Expert Advisor. Do you want to make 100+% annual returns through automating the London Breakout and the opening range breakout? Then click the link in the description. So I'd like to start off on the sales page to get an idea of the strategy that underlies the bot. And he's giving a pretty good description here, and starting off with the fact that he states that gold is quite an interesting pair to trade, as it is impacted by a variety of economic factors as well as geopolitical events, which is completely true. And that's what makes gold, in my opinion, at least one of the most interesting pairs to trade, because it's really it's a good litmus test of the global economy. Everything affects gold, so it's fascinating to kind of track gold prices. But here he's saying that the actual strategy here is far more sophisticated than just standard technical analysis. And he mentions specifically that it kind of tries to monitor institutional order flow and market microstructure. I don't necessarily see how one would do that via MetaTrader 5. Yes, you can definitely develop strategies based on order flow as well as based on market microstructure. But if you're trading with a CFD broker and you only have price data, you don't have order flow data, it's relatively challenging to do that. You just don't have that information. So you absolutely can develop order flow based systems, particularly if you trade futures, for instance, where you're able to access the order book, you're able to access level 2 data, or if you had a direct price feed, which may be connected to the interbank market. You definitely could do that. And market microstructure, yes, there's a million trading strategies based on market microstructure. A lot of high frequency trading systems are based on that. And to give you an example of what market microstructure might entail is, let's say if you send an order to the stock market, when you actually make a trade, it gets routed to a particular exchange. So if you try and buy 50 shares of Tesla, it might get executed on one of the main US exchanges. However, it might also get executed in a dark pool or in a minor exchange or in a true electronic exchange. So being able to develop strategies perhaps that look to front run order flow would be a classic example of a market microstructure strategy. So let's say you're a high frequency trader, you see a large block of orders going to the NASDAQ. Perhaps you'd be able to front run it because you have more high speed connections to a particular exchange. But all of that to say, you can't really do this if you're just trading with MetaTrader 5 on the basic CFD broker. So sounds fancy, but I don't think it's particularly realistic here. But what seems more interesting as he discussed that it identifies key price zones where large players typically enter and exit positions. So that kind of speaks to using supply and demand zones to underlie the strategy, which is a tried and tested, very good trading strategy, particularly for gold. So that makes a lot of sense. And I think that would probably be the main strategy here. He also mentions AI kind of haphazardly, but I don't think that it gives any indications of actually using AI. It says a sophisticated multi-layer AI protection system. Okay, that's great, but we don't really know what that entails. And he does mention here that he provides good support, which is always nice to see. And here, if we go to the live signal, we can see that there's a handful of trades. This is actually looking pretty good. There are some winners and there are some losers, which is usually a good sign. And the one issue is that it's not super statistically significant yet. However, it's only been trading for a few days, and it is actually making quite a few trades. So if we were to come back to this in a couple of months, it might very well give us an indication of how this system works, because it does appear to have a pretty good trading frequency, and there's a good mix. There's some losers, there's some winners, all of which is a good sign. So the live signal page is actually looking pretty good. So before we jump into MT5, my takeaways here are likely based on some sort of supply and demand zone breakout system, and the live signal is looking quite good. If we go here to MT5, you can see that I've taken the liberty of downloading the EA, and I've already run a backtest here on the H1 time frame on gold. And the backtest was really interesting because it's just making a ton of trades. So we can see here that there's like some which are going long, some which are going short. There are some losers, there are some winners as well. And the actual backtest graph, it's looking like exceptionally rosy. This is roughly a 1-year backtest, and it turned $10,000 into $123,000. So those kinds of returns, in my opinion, might be a bit unrealistic, but that doesn't mean that there's no actual strategy here. So kind of back up to here, you guys can see that it's running a ton of different trades. And quite often many of them are clustered together. So what I can see here though as well is sometimes it's taking more like counter trend trades, like it's shorting, like it's doing a cluster of shorts, but then sometimes it's also taking more like breakout style trades. So here, if we go back, we can see that these are more like breakout trend continuation trades, but here it tries to also take mean reversion trades. So to his point, supply and demand zones might be one of the strategies underlying it, but there's also some degree of mean reversion system here. So that perhaps it's also using indicators, or it's using both minimas and maximas levels. So to now walk through the backtest results, we can see that it has a very high win rate at 81.19%, but that corresponds with an inverted risk reward, with the average profit trade being lower than the average losing trade, which would be something that we're expecting to see. Here the magnitudes are a bit off. I would expect to see an average profit trade a little bit lower than what we're seeing relative to the average loss trade, but nothing which is like screaming manipulation either. And let's maybe now run a visual backtest, or perhaps quickly go through the inputs tabs first. We can see that there are some settings here to activate stop losses and take profits. You can specify the method to calculate loss sizing, and you're able to split orders. And also like some filters here to be able to actually like reduce the number of trades placed at a given time, which also makes sense. News filters, there's quite a few different settings here. So all of this is actually looking like quite good for now. Like I'm not seeing anything egregious. And let me just zoom out. And here we can see that yes, some of these are definitely shorts. I'm not seeing any indicators on the chart, but it could very well be hard-coded, but I don't think so. Let's keep running it. Okay, there's definitely some shorts, longs. Okay, so maybe just to wrap up here, from what I'm seeing, there does appear to be a real strategy here. It does appear to be using zones like the developer is saying. The fact that it's running quickly is a good sign, as I don't think it's a history reader. And he does seem to be showing a relatively honest live signal, or actually a very honest live signal. A few points which are more red flags are that the actual equity growth seems almost too good to be true. We are seeing a growth of 10K to 123K, which is a little bit unrealistic in my opinion. That appears to be a bit too much equity growth. However, something else which stood out to me is in the previous graph, you may have noticed like around here when the previous backtest was run, it was sloping downwards. And that does indicate that this might actually be using a support and resistance breakout or a support and resistance style strategy, as many of those systems saw the same leveling off in equity peak. I can show it to you here actually. You can see that it kind of stabilized towards the end. That was consistent with this type of system. So my general and my key takeaways here is it does appear to be a real system. It does, in my opinion, mirror the type of strategy which the developer is mentioning. However, I also think that the actual backtest is likely a bit over-optimized to show a crazy equity growth as well as a beautiful, beautiful smooth line. So what I would recommend and what I would think might be useful is just to kind of keep an eye on the live signal. Right now, it's only been running for a few weeks, so we don't have too much statistical significance. However, give it a few more months, we might be able to assess if this is a good strategy or not. but there's no massive signs of manipulation. It could very well be a very solid system. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Take care. Have a great day.